Today's guest is Joerg Erlemeier, co-founder and chief operating officer of an AI-powered platform helping small and medium enterprises improve operational, commercial, and financial performance. Before building QUCOXX, Joerg spent more than 30 years across industry and consulting, including leadership roles at Nokia and McKinsey. In this episode, we'll explore what large enterprises still misunderstand about small business growth. What is it really like to go from corporate executive to a startup founder at 59, and why operational clarity may become one of the biggest competitive advantages in the AI era? Welcome to the Future Ventures podcast on Scaling with Clarity, Joerg.
Hi, Maxim. Nice to meet you.
It is a pleasure to have you on. I've been looking forward to this episode and the insights that you have to share. So, tell me, what was that burning desire behind you living the cushy roles of big companies and starting QUCOXX?
Well, I think the most important aspect was I was at a stage of my life where I thought actually, I want to do something different. I did also not found it by myself. We did it together, actually, the three of us. We know each other for a long time. Andreas, one of my co-founders, have been with me also in my Nokia career already. So we have a long history together. We did a lot of transformation together and a lot of work across the continents. In addition to that, we have been joined, by Carolina, his also wife. She has been a long-term consultant. She has been for many years actually consulting in McKinsey, but also have been partner at McKinsey for a couple of years. And so we said, look, after all these years with large corporations, what can we do actually to help the enterprise market? And the first starting point was the hypothesis that we looked into, the European environment. And the backbone of every economy, quite frankly, across the globe is the small, medium enterprises. Mm-hmm. It's not the large corporations. The large corporations do drive a lot of innovation, I would think, and also, of course, have excelling power, which they can, drive markets with. But at the same time, the everyday, employment, but also the gross domestic product of every economy is driven actually by their backbone, which is the smaller companies. And we said, how can we help them, in the best possible way? And one aspect which really actually, drove and hit us hard when we looked into the details is that we found out actually that 40 to 50% actually gap exists between the operational excellence and efficiency of smaller companies versus actually compared to the large corporations. And we said that we must be able to change that. So we said, how do we actually, do that in large corporations? I mean, usually we have a lot of people, we have lots of capabilities, we have capacity, we have experience around the globe, in every market you could dream of. And we can pull these, experiences and capacities and capabilities together to form for something new. Mm-hmm. Take the age of AI, for example. You would actually go out and have a lot of people actually, already which are developing in your organization skills around that. And otherwise, you build organizational capacity actually to do so. In smaller organizations, it's more very constrained on capabilities and capacity. And of course, also budgets. So if corporates don't know any further, they will go to external consultants, and usually the top prime companies, which I have been also privileged to work with, but they cannot serve every small company. On one hand, actually, it is too much actually budget. Let's be clear also on that, for smaller companies to engage these large consulting company firms. On the other hand, they have also a gross need, a strong need actually to have counterparts in your own organization to work with them. So that means small companies actually are constrained by time anyway already and capacity. So how will they even serve that market? So we said, okay, how do we do this? And we then found out, we first did a market study in 7 European countries with more than 1,200 companies to explore if we are right with our assumptions. And the feedback we got was actually very clear. We are on the right path. You need to do something digitally. You need to give them, top expertise at a much lower budget, much faster turnarounds. And that's why we said we need to go digital. But at the same time, there's a human aspect as well. That's why we developed something which is more hybrid. It is clearly at the center is technology, but at the same time, which is to create speed, of course, and scalability. But at the same time, it is us with our expertise actually, helping to train the workflows, which we have been developed on one hand. And at the same time, we can also be there for sparring actually when, the time gets tough. Mm-hmm. We want to bring companies fast to execution. That's the key. You really need to go out there and you don't have time to develop a 6, 12, 13 month strategy and then think about it for 6 months and so forth. They want to see results in these smaller companies relatively quickly. And that's what you can only do actually when you work a lot digitally. So you need to understand fast actually, what's the baseline, what's the problem to solve for, what diagnostic actually can we do fast, and then come to an executable plan. And then iteratively actually, get the performance up and get better. So that's intrigued us. And that was a long answer now, of course, to your question, the ingoing question. For me, it was, I think, at the end of my, I would say, corporate career, I thought actually I need to do something very different. And in McKinsey, I did a little bit of that already because we did a tech-enabled consulting model. So I helped actually growing, one of the assets they bought to kind of comply actually with the operating model of a large corporation, and at the same time keep their own uniqueness and brand identity. Yeah. And go-to-market principles and so forth. And so I found actually this is very exciting actually to do something, on your own and at the same time maybe serve a market which I feel is underserved.
So before we come back to you, and because I think you have a very illustrious history and career, can you put it in simple terms, kind of like what is the burning problem that QUCOXX is solving? I know you talked about workflow and digital, but just to contextualize the conversation.
Well, we have three main areas I would say as problem areas. Mm-hmm. Usually there are many questions around growth. So how can I grow my company? How can I compete with the rest out there? And what I need to do actually, inside that bucket of growth. Yeah. So yeah. When you peel the onion, you will find a lot of things like there's commercial aspects, there's marketing aspects, there's brand, there's value proposition. There is how do I use simple things in these days is how do I actually, change myself to be present in today's world out there with my offerings. Very often it's about social media, it's about LinkedIn, it's about other media they need to go to, and they don't know how to, because they have either ignored it for a long, long time, or they have never really actually, approached it as a real, kind of sales contribution channel.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Or lead channel. And the second, so there's a lot of dimensions under growth already. And we see actually that I would say at the moment, 50% plus actually of our customers are coming with that topic in mind, because everything is about how can I grow my revenue? How can I, be more efficient? How can I actually be competitive in these days? How can I drive actually, my profitability up? How can I win more leads? Yeah. The second big bucket is very much linked to that as well, is my business performance. So financial performance, forecasts, profitability, costs. We found actually that a lot of companies, especially smaller companies, do live actually, I would say more on the traditional actually, kind of in the traditional kind of sense, actually from an accounting perspective, they do actually know what their tax advisor is telling them, and they see what they have in their bank accounts, but they rarely look actually, beyond, the current month. Sometimes they do, at least from a prospect generation perspective, but very often not when it comes to financial forecasting, cost rigor, changing, suppliers, et cetera. So there's many dimensions under that. And the third aspect is very operational. So there's topics like, how can I, when I grow, there's obviously an impact to my organization. How do I need to change my model from a small company to become a bigger company and a larger company? And what aspects do I need to consider in my operational dimensions? Be it actually the leadership team, be it, the delegation, the mode of operations. How do we actually, what KPIs do we use? How do we measure people? I mean, all of these topics, up to, how can I get my supply chain, differently set up? How can I change my procurement? How can I actually work, more effectively with my manufacturing?
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, this obviously really resonates well with me. I spent 13 years between EY and Deloitte, and what I'm hearing is essentially you've taken some of the consulting framework and made it available in the hands of small and medium-sized enterprises. And funny enough, one of our top 3 performing guides is the McKinsey 7S framework that we have on our website. So I'm assuming some of this kind of knowledge is proliferating into what you've built. That's interesting.
It clearly is, but maybe let me. Sorry that I'm interrupting you, but I think it's an important topic actually, and just an aspect I want to bring to the table as well. Yeah, I mean, what we have been training our workflows with is to eliminate actually corporate and consulting language. Yes. What we found in most times is that these very nice and very good frameworks, which we use, of course, in the background as well to structure problems. Yeah. Structure the reality and to come to an executional plan, but you need to translate it into an operating reality of people who say, what does that mean for me? Okay. What do I need to change now in my daily life? What do I need? What is the task of my colleague? What is the task of myself? And I think that's this translation. We are trying to do this translation as well to become much more clear, I would say, in terms of, what is it you really need to do?
I couldn't agree more. Like, once you're a consultant, it's kind of hard to take off the consulting clothes. I remember in 2015, I was leaving Deloitte to become the chief audit executive of a publicly traded company, and at that time it was sizable. It was about 800 employees. It grew quickly to a lot more than that. I think they're now at 5,000. And the first thing, because I was working really closely with the CEO, the first thing the CEO told me, like, stop talking like a consultant and start talking like you're one of us, right? But it just, you just morphed over a decade plus. You just morphed to talk like a consultant.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you, Joerg. Now, you have a really, really interesting background. Can we just double click on your career and what you have done in the past and kind of like how your background has better prepared you for where you are today?
Well, I think let me quickly go through it. Yeah, there were all two components actually to my career. I mean, one was the international environment. I have been living in all continents. I have been living 20 years abroad with my family. We moved from place to place, from Europe to Asia and to the Americas. And what we found is actually that this international, so first of all, actually this international ability to understand different cultures, different ways of working and so forth is very intriguing. So that's one thing actually, which I already always tell also younger people, how should I organize my career? I'm always saying, stay flexible, stay open, stay flexible, and grab the opportunities when they present themselves. And I would say actually lucky enough that I had always the possibility actually to be challenged a little more from actually, services sales. I became actually very fast, the service leader of sales actually for the European market. Then I became a project director because someone said to me, and I found that very interesting, you sold that project, which was a very, very large turnkey operations. Why don't you go execute it? Yeah. Because when you know it, by heart, what is going on there, you maybe learn actually other trades. And so my career went, and they gave me always more responsibility, a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. So the challenge grew over time. And then we brought companies together. We integrated, of course, large entities like Nokia and Siemens networks and so forth. So it became very large. And then they said, look, I mean, can you be the transformation leader for this, large transformation which we have, which I think was a pivotal moment in my career, because it kind of changed my perspective on how you run good businesses and how do you transform actually a business that is very, very complex and global. So I did that for around 18 months. And then I'm always saying, actually, we became very profitable because we did so many things in the right way, in the right spirit, with a lot of very hard decisions, of course, to be taken. Like we got rid of products and divisions even. Yeah, we divested quite a lot of businesses, 9 at that time. And we doubled down on others. And we said, actually, concentrate on where your core capabilities are. So it was this focus moment again. And then it was all about clarity. And this is one of the big themes also. I think, smaller companies can learn from large corporations is the operational clarity. You need to be super clear in what leadership actually translates into the last person in the organization, and that they know exactly what they have to do, and that it becomes, not something which is a second guessing of where the direction goes, where you want to go and where you have to go and how you succeed and what is my personal contribution to that. So from that transformation moment, we went then to I went then to the US, and then later actually we acquired Alcatel-Lucent. And I'm always saying we were lucky because we were in a completely actually kind of competitive environment, and everything consolidated. It's the telecoms industry, very difficult industry. And we became faster in our success than Alcatel-Lucent, because otherwise it would have maybe actually turned out the other way around. We joined forces. I still see it actually as a very good complementary merger, because they had fantastic businesses which we didn't have, and we complemented each other. And that is always a good success factor, of course, when you bring two companies together, that you don't have too many overlapping parts. They asked me then to be the integration leader, which was another fortunate step for me. So I joined these fantastic 2 companies with 100,000 people each to become one company, which was of course great. Then after that, actually, I became the CEO of one of the largest business groups, together with the president and with my co-founder, Andreas, who was the CFO. We were running that business because that had the most complexity in it. Later, I became the chief transformation officer of Nokia Group. I then became ultimately the CEO of the Nokia Group, and with all its positives and negatives, because you can design any operating model actually, in slightly different forms. You give a little bit more central control and on efficiencies across business groups, or you do actually, mimic more or less actually that you have almost a holding, and you require the business groups really to, run their own businesses. And from there, when I left, actually, I joined McKinsey because they asked me if I could help them out with this, acquisition they did. And I was then helping them to really scale it up, to globalize it, to bring it actually close to their operating model. And that was a unique experience because you had this dual role in a sense. On one hand, supporting actually the go-to-market principles and operating principles of McKinsey. At the same time, you had your own company, which you had also to protect in terms of brand, value creation, customer intimacy, and so forth, because we had other customers as well, because it was a SaaS business. So I think the biggest learning is this operational clarity. I think that is really something actually I bring into any discussion with CEOs from smaller companies, where I'm saying, look, let me look into how you are running your business. And how clear is this to you? If I would interview 5 of your people, would they all actually give me the same answer? Would they know where you're going, what you're doing, what they are doing? And how is it measured? And what does success look like? These are usually actually the key questions to ask.
I'm curious. The reason why we named our podcast "Scaling with Clarity" is for the same reason. Like, all we're trying to do is, by working with founders, we're just trying to modulate the path they take instead of zigzag along the way to find. To reach their final destination or the next set of milestones, is we're trying to help them take the most direct path. Now, in my 25 years of experience, what I have found is, and I primarily work with large enterprises, I have not found large enterprises to be good at clarity. Like, in the tech world, there's the objectives and key results framework that was popularized by the founder of Intel, then that got adopted by the technology firms. But for the most part, if you look at other large enterprises, their goal setting, the clarity, capital allocation, is very hodgepodge. Like, it's very random. We have, like, for that reason, we've created value creation frameworks. We've done like a lot of these, but I have not found this to be done well, regardless of whether the company is top 20 TSX listed company here in Canada with 8,000 employees or smaller companies. What are your observations around the companies that they're amazing and getting to that clarity from goal setting? You said, like, one of the goals is that from the CEO or from the leader all the way to, I don't know, layer 6 or 7 of the organization, everyone has to be clear in terms of how their work attributes or contributes to the overall success of the organization. Who does it well? Who doesn't? Why do they do it well? Kind of like, what are the key ingredients or impediments standing in the way of doing it well?
Well, I think first of all, I agree with you. Yeah, of course, I'm pretty sure actually that there's a large difference actually how corporates are run and enterprises are run.
Yeah.
And not all of them, were run very successfully. We did a large transformation as well to exactly come to this clarity and get everything aligned, because it was, not very fact-based. And I think that's one of maybe the key aspects actually, which I would call clarity already, which is, it's not about stories, it's not about, anecdotes, it's not about, what happened to me actually 3 years ago. This is not about what I heard from someone. It's about facts.
Yeah.
I think it all starts from there. Do you have even the data to support it? Yeah. And that is, I think, missing in a lot of companies. Or if they have the data, they don't bring it together.
Okay.
But I think a couple of aspects still actually, for me are key. And when I'm saying, for example, when I'm talking to smaller companies or founders or, other startup leaders, I'm always saying, do not copy, of course, what's bad in corporate structures. Let's call it for a second bureaucracy. Because bureaucracy in a small company will kill you. But what you should look at is operating discipline. Operating discipline means things like you have clear decision structures.
Yeah.
You have very clear priorities, which you first need to define. And very often what I see, and observe in larger and smaller companies, I have to say, is that the priorities are not clear.
Mm-hmm.
And priorities for a CEO of a large company might be sometimes very different, actually understood when you go down, the command chain in a sense, if I may call it that way.
Yeah.
So you need to get your leadership team to align actually, on your priorities and communicate those priorities also clearly. And then you need to measure it. Mm-hmm. Then the other thing is the execution. People always try, our strategy was not good. I'm saying, look, the strategy is usually not the problem. It is usually the execution of the strategy.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the cadence, how you're executing. It's clear what priorities out of your strategy actually come first. And how do you measure it? How do you measure actually the performance of what you're executing out of your strategy? This is usually where the main gaps sit, which I could see. And when I'm translating this to what can you do differently, then I'm always saying, be clear of the priorities. Who owns what? Make it simple.
Yeah.
Who owns what? What does success look like? So that means actually, when you execute on this, ultimately, what is your outcome? Do you want what you want to achieve? And if it's not the outcome you expected, because is that then still good enough? And these are the kind of, KPIs. And I remember, there's this typical traffic light reporting methodology, of course, where everybody says, yeah, we are either green or we are yellow or we are red. And at one point, when I had too many disconsents, I would say, and unclarity in the organization, I changed it actually, and I said, let's eliminate yellow. Yellow is a hybrid in between I'm delayed and I'm not doing well on execution, and yes, everything is green. So I became, yes, you can actually say, well, Joerg is German. Maybe I became a little bit black and white, but sometimes it is that way, that you've maybe first trained the organizational muscle also, and the routines are coming in, where you're saying, okay, it's not about yellow, because otherwise I've seen report sheets actually which are everywhere yellow. And then you say, okay, but how does this yellow actually, help us now?
Yeah.
So if you are all behind on all of these execution areas, well, then label it red. Yeah. And then it's always the question, how can we solve these problems? And I see this also with scale-ups, because you're also saying it's all about scaling with clarity. Scaling with clarity actually is also a matter of, founders or co-founders or small organizations in the beginning. They know each other, they're aligned, they talk to each other on a daily basis. It becomes complicated when you start actually having more and more people in your organization. And you cannot just actually, control this by your informal network in a sense, where you're just talking to each other.
Okay.
So formalizing a bit doesn't mean bureaucracy. I think that's the other point as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Shout out to Atlassian. Atlassian, if you're listening, we would love to have you as a sponsor. But we use with a lot of the companies we work, we use Atlassian suite of products where we use the Confluence product for communication, Atlas for setting out the goals, the OKRs, and then Jira for the project management. Because that way, from the very top to the very bottom, you know exactly what you're doing, and you know exactly how your action, task, priority contributes to the overall success of the organization. This has to be a dynamic way, and it has to be low friction way in order for you to continuously drive this. Without this, good luck trying to have this alignment of priorities.
Absolutely. Because that will, what you just described is clarifying the communication also.
Yep, for sure.
Because when you have clear structures in place, how you communicate through the organization, it becomes very transparent and very visible. And what you also eliminate, it's a nice side effect I always felt, is the kind of control via actually knowledge. So power
Agreed.
via knowledge.
Agreed.
Especially in larger organizations, you see that, of course, but it can also become a bottleneck if, for example, a founder is not very good in communicating. And they have maybe all the knowledge, but they have not explained it to
Agreed.
others. They have maybe not
Agreed.
told others about it. And people can't second guess what's in your head. They need to understand what is in your head. And I think these are the kind of things. So unclear communication, duplicating work, because ultimately one leads to the other. That people think, yeah, it's all clear. But again, it's this ownership of work. Yeah? Who is assigned to this task? So then be accountable also for executing that task. Take the ownership.
100%.
You don't have to do this by yourself. That's very often also a common misunderstanding. But you own the outcome.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key aspect as well. And it will eliminate actually, a lot of duplications, which is ineffective. Clearly, leadership bottlenecks. I mean, you see that is a growing pain of organizations in my perspective, because they suddenly become hierarchically organized with pyramid principles, which they think actually is a modern way of organizing organizations. It's not. Because specifically now with the technology and the data at hand, think about AI. And we are thinking, our theme also was reinventing leadership in the AI era. Means you have more or less democratized knowledge and information. And that's something which leaders have also to deal with, because the power is not the throne anymore they are sitting on. It is actually, orchestrating others to the right outcome. And helping them to make them better. And these are the kind of key aspects actually which are also changing cultures in organizations a lot.
I couldn't agree more with you. When we work with scale-ups, or what other people may refer as growth enterprises, growth companies, the two most common areas where we focus are coaching the founders on how to say no. And then how to best allocate resources to the things they say yes. Because especially in the early stages of growing a company, let's say that you're at 50 employees and you're trying to get to 500 employees, you're trying to grow the business 10x, you have the tendency, the propensity, oh, there's a shiny thing here. Well, I can build a product. Oh, I can capture this revenue. And it becomes a massive distraction. So continuously working with the founders, coaching and mentoring them, to modulate them to stay narrow in terms of where they are, is a gigantic ongoing task in terms of helping them. And the one way that it becomes a reinforcing behavior is having at your fingertips, having the information that kind of feeds and validates these decisions. So I couldn't agree more in terms of what you're building. This becomes super important, because the reinforcement becomes behavior or becomes a habit. And so you need this information. Yeah.
I mean, I think what you're describing is the daily reality of in a lot of companies. You want to go fast, and you have to do things, in a speedy way. But by that, you're slowing yourself down, because you're starting too many things at the same time. And you're not completing, the things. And I'm of course not an advocate actually for sequential working. I don't want to be misunderstood, because I think parallel working is good. But at the same time, you need to see what capacity you have. And the priorities need to be, that's the hardest, like you said, actually, what are the kind of yes-no decisions? It's the prioritization ultimately, which is the challenge, to really sit down and say, okay, what does really matter now? It doesn't mean actually that the other points don't matter in the future. But building this kind of consensus of what is in my reality to get us moving forward, the right priority, and assigning then the right people onto it so that they can complete this task. That's the absolute key. I just worked with one, founder in my whom we are working with, who is scaling with a luxury problem, 30-40% per year, per annum.
Okay.
And the company, so that's revenue base, and at the same time, actually, the organization grows with most probably not totally linear, but grows also with 15% a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he is completely without actually sales organization, completely. He is the only salesperson, the CEO of that company.
Okay.
And we are now working on debottlenecking that challenge because, of course, he starts to be overworked. He cannot cope with all of these requests anymore. And how do you do that? You need to then actually trust other people. You need to manage through other people. Yeah, you need to train them actually, on your own concepts. You give them clear boundaries, you give them training, you give them the professional muscle to do it. But you need to also, and that's why I see one struggle in founders, CEOs, etc., to give away what you actually were always doing, and you think you can do best, of course.
Yeah.
And then the next person needs to do it, and you need to scale it up. This becomes also almost a cultural, personal aspect. Yeah, you need to make that leap to become a better leader and a better organizational leader, which is very different to just a leader.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was smiling as you were talking. It's definitely one of the blind spots that we see across that crossing the chasm of founder-led sales to whatever your sales strategy might be, like product-led growth, sales-led growth, community-led growth, whatever it might be. You're just kind of letting go of the reins and trusting that you like the team can carry the torch forward. But as many leaders say, greatness is in the agency of others. You have to let go if you want to scale a company, if you want to grow a company to new heights. Now, on the weekend, I was interviewing a founder. She has an AI startup. She's originally from a Turkish heritage, grew up in Netherlands, in the States. And she said something that absolutely stopped me in my track. She's like, if you are a founder, you have to start like a Turk, but finish like a German. I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, in the beginning, it's all passion. Like, you gotta have the energy. But the Germans are known for flawless execution. So I was like, okay, I get that. Okay, so you've worked. I mean, you're originally from Germany. You've worked across the world. Kind of like, what are you seeing that stands out to you, maybe from a cultural perspective or from a German perspective? Like, what do you see that makes German businesses like powerhouses when it comes to execution?
Well, I'm actually a little bit torn with this statement. I mean, I can't do anything about actually my, of course, own, where I'm born. Yeah, I mean, I'm a German, and I of course I was kind of educated maybe in the German system in the beginning of my life. But I think so. When we worked, I mean, one of the aspects I always admired most is actually I always said I'm working for the United Nations. Yeah. Because there were so many nationalities in my teams, in the teams I worked with, where I contributed. And that was the richness I found, because every culture brings something different to the table. You just need to actually, nurture those elements and understand the aspects also of how to get from A to B, which is not the same maybe for a German sometimes than, for example, someone in Asia. Yeah, you need to maybe go a different route. Yeah, or when you think about Middle East or Africa and so forth. Every country, every continent, every single community is different. And I would really say, ultimately, I have seen fantastic, companies and performing extremely strong, of course, in many, many geographies. Yeah? I think one thing which they all apply, most probably, and not only the Germans, the good companies is, doing this prioritizations right, getting this clarity, making sure actually that they want to work for that topic. They know this is the topic they need to prioritize. They have passion, exactly to your quote, from this lovely, lady there. She's most probably actually absolutely right. It's passion for the outcome also. It's not just I'm working actually on something which might or might not be good. You need to believe and you want to create the best outcome ever. And I think that's an important differentiation also when it comes to cultures and leaders and how you mix maybe also cultures, so that you drive to the best possible outcomes. And I'm always saying actually, leadership can confuse actually a lot with discussion with progress. I'm always saying, look, leadership think, I had so many meetings, I had good conversations with my colleagues. Well, that's fantastic, but are you making progress?
Yeah.
Are the right topics addressed? Do you address the bottlenecks and so forth? And I think it's this kind of routines, with, by the way, is completely cultural and neutral. I think everybody can learn it, but it's routines which you can actually say, do my meetings always have to be an hour?
Yeah, agree.
Can the meeting not be 20 minutes or 15?
15, yeah.
Do we need all these people in this meeting? Do we need them in all of these meetings?
Agree.
We invite this series of events and then people populate their calendars with it. I think it's much better sometimes to say, hey, let's shrink it. Less people, less time. Let's get to the point.
Or can a meeting be a memo?
Exactly. Is it enough? And I always repeat actually maybe one anecdote from my own life as well. When I took over Middle East and Africa as a region, at one point I came to the team actually, and I did a big town hall, with I think it was 1,000 people or so, and I put one slide up, only one, which had my mobile number on it.
Okay.
And I said, I don't want any emails except they are to me, not CC, not BCC, to, and you explain to me in that too what I need to do.
Yeah.
Then you send me an email. If you want me to do something for you, for your customers, you call me. It's okay. I'm just a call away. So I'm not distant. I don't need this long email chains. I don't want 40 people on the email distribution list. You copy everybody. You just to be safe rather than sorry.
Okay.
And I think it's these kind of small routines which can change the dynamic and culture of organizations, leadership teams, etc. And what, of course, managing directors or CEOs of smaller companies need to learn is actually that they need to let go. 100%. Do they need to be in all of these meetings? It's also a question they need to ask themselves.
100%.
Yeah. So I think it's very often actually all about simple methodologies, simple changes. It's approachability, of course, as well, that you don't think you're someone other than the others, because quite frankly, I remember as a COO, I had a town hall in China, and another anecdote, and I said, look, the majority of decisions are not taken by me.
Yeah.
The majorities of decisions is taken in my organization by you.
Yes.
Daily, thousands of small decisions which you take, which bring the direction of our company into either a good direction or not a good direction. What I can decide are only the things which are escalated to me, and it should be clarified why it is escalated. Why can you not solve this by yourself? Because at the bottom, and I'm not saying bottom of the pyramid or something, what I mean is actually, close to the action, you can decide with much more factual understanding. So you decide. As long as you know what our, playground is, where we want to go, what our direction is, what our priorities is, what do we want to achieve as an organization, you can decide.
Mm-hmm.
You decide. And I think that's also a strong, feeling for some people actually, that it's their accountability. Some feel threatened by it, but most of them feel relieved, and you unleash potential which you usually didn't see before.
Agree. I mean, it sets the cultural undertone if you have a leadership team that just empowers. Because yes, it may be uncomfortable in some ways because you have to own the outcome, but at the same time, it's very freeing and liberating to know that I can get direction, and if I need help to remove barriers and roadblocks, I can raise my hand and get the help. But otherwise, I'm accountable for this.
Absolutely. And I have also examples where I went wrong. I mean, a lot of times in my life. Yeah, I think that's another learning actually, of people. When you find out, you need to just be able to understand that you were wrong and correct course. Take advice, take suggestions, and be not too proud to change something in your own behavior. I mean, I did micromanagement actually, and I later apologized and said, actually, I shouldn't have done it because I slowed the process down massively. I took decisions for others where it was ridiculous almost, where the others felt actually, hey, I can do this decision. Why is he taking that away from me? So you learn over time, and then you gradually need to shift actually and transform your model to become, a better leader, have a better leadership team, and ultimately a better organization.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the other thing that I'm seeing is like organizations that celebrate failures, and I have to clarify by what I mean by celebrate failure, are a lot faster moving and a lot more successful. And what I mean by celebrate failure, we're not celebrating the act of failing, we're celebrating the act of learning. It's kind of like to the military is like, did we make the best decision based on the available information at that time? That's really the question that you're trying to answer. Not did we get it right? Because getting it right, it could be a byproduct, a whole slew of factors. So I couldn't agree more. Now, I have a question for you. I mean, you and I, very similar path, like focus on change, focus on transformation, focus on growing, scaling. Now, if a founder or a leader wants to start executing on some of these principles, how do they go about, what can they start doing tomorrow? How can they leverage AI to drive this clarity?
I think that maybe the second part of your question actually threw me a little bit off rail. The first one is easier. Yeah. What can you change? I think the first thing is actually change always yourself first. Yeah. So look at your own behavior, analyze actually what you're doing. How is your calendar looking like? What meetings do you participate in, and so forth and so forth. Yeah. You can analyze that quite well and start structuring it differently.
Yes.
Because before you point at others, first point at yourself, and analyze yourself, because that will also make a cultural cadence. It will change actually the rest. AI can help you. I found at least AI can help you also structure your thoughts. It's not the best actually when you just use ChatGPT or whatever, or Claude or any of these tools actually to run your own thinking processes. But what it very often does very well is that you're saying, look, I mean, I'm having actually this kind of raw principles and priorities. This is the context I'm working with. This is, where I want to go. Can you help me sort actually the priorities? Can you think about actually, what could I do more efficiently? AI is fantastic with that. Now, I mean, usually how it structures the thinking processes, which you might not have fully clear. But take your human brain into it as well, because it's, of course, AI has limitations by its own rights, but it works with facts. It gives it your right facts. tell it what you want to do, how it can help you, and try to actually, spin into a direction where it helps you to kind of not offload everything, because there's this famous thing. There's an agent running actually my email inbox. Yeah, it's already actually sorting overnight all my emails, and in the morning it proposes me actually to draft answers. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. But at the same time, emails and your own part of your personal communication. So you need to think about actually, why do I need that? Yeah, I mean, maybe it can structure it. What I would find a good thing is structure it, ask the agent to structure it in such a way, actually, what are my private emails? What is business priority? So what comes in where I need to look first? So helping me actually structure my inbox in a sense, actually, to make my life easier. What is maybe not necessary, to prioritize right now? It's all about prioritization. So I think AI can help a lot with helping you structuring things. I mean, we have, by the way, actually, we have in today a masterclass which I'm running with 3 other experts speakers on operations efficiency in the age of AI.
Yeah.
And if I'm cutting through the whole, communication and so forth, the key priority is always data and processes, because AI will always compound the problem. So if you have a problem already, it will not, eliminate it. So you need to work on your structures, you need to work on your people, you need to work on your data, and then you can use effectively and efficiently AI to become much more efficient and faster, of course.
Yeah.
And this is the same actually for your own life. Yeah, I mean, use AI, but in the sense it was designed for. It was not designed to replace human thinking. It was designed to augment humans and human thinking and capability.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's a ton of companies now working on building the company brain, and it's just a fancy word for how do we build a data lake where we're pulling information where the AI can reside on top to be able to extract what's important to do or not do. But it all starts with data. Data is at the root of it. I know we're coming to the end of the interview, but I like to close the conversations with a choice of a question, and you can choose to answer one, or you can choose to answer both questions. The first question is, what's the best advice you have ever received? And the second question is, what's the kindest thing anyone has ever done for you?
Oh, these are not very nice questions. So let me answer both. I mean, I think the best advice I ever got is actually, be yourself and trust in your own capabilities. I know it sounds very undramatic and very common sense, but be yourself means a lot when you go through, careers.
Yeah.
When you are still and we see this even in the football world championships right now, which are running. When you look at Luka Modric from Croatia, who turns now 41, he has always been a human. He has never been, even though he's a superstar in soccer, he has never portrayed that. He has never, used this to his advantage. And I think that means for me, be yourself. So stay yourself also. Be yourself, stay yourself. Yeah, but also trust in your capabilities. You will learn. You will fail. Like you said, let's celebrate failures. Failures will help you through my career. Actually, it helped me a lot also to not only, succeed, because a setback will give you time actually to reflect and hopefully correct course and be after that better prepared for something else. So I think that's That's clear. The kindest thing someone has done for me, I think it's all about human aspects ultimately. If you translate it to business, I'm always saying, again, people when they are saying what's my career ambition and so forth, and how can I get to a certain stage, I'm always saying, look, there's three things in life you need to three stars which need to align in life actually to make it happen. There needs to be an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be capable and willing to do that, be flexible enough. And the third is actually someone trusts you and promotes you and helps you. There is not one single person who can actually do everything by themselves. And I think the kindest thing is maybe, of course, my family. My wife actually always traveled with me, taking the hardship in a sense, having kids and a house and so forth. And she always brought this social life to us immediately, because I was all the time, working and traveling and so forth. So that is most probably the kindest thing actually, someone did for me.
That's amazing. Somebody to support you and your growth. Doesn't matter if it's a husband or wife, a spouse or a mentor, or somebody that believes in you. Joerg, it has been fantastic having you on the podcast and for you to share your insights with our founders. I really appreciate that. I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you, Maxim. It was a great pleasure and honor actually to be here, and looking forward to many more conversations.
Absolutely. Same here.
Thank you very much.